Welcome to Lesson 10. Today we're talking about how to make decisions in Python using three important concepts: comparison operators, modulo, and Boolean logic. But before we get into these comparisons, let's start with something fundamental: conditions. What is a condition? A condition is just a statement that can either be true or false. In Python, we use conditions to check if something meets a requirement. So if the condition is true, the program can take action. If it's false, it might do something else or just stop altogether. So here's some examples of conditions in everyday life. If your phone battery is below 10%, well, then you get a low battery warning. If a restaurant order total is over $50, you get a free delivery. If a TikTok video has at least 1,000 likes, it gets recommended more. All of these are conditions, and they check if something meets a certain rule, and then it will return either true or false. Let's take a look at this comparison operator chart here. Comparison operators let us compare two values and return either true or false. So in the last lesson, we talked about Boolean values, which are true and false, and essentially they represent yes or no, on and off, or true and false. And these are decisions. So we're going to see how Python actually creates those values using comparison. So let's start with the equal to. And to represent equal to, you use two equal signs. And then the comparison values are likes and 10,000. Okay, so let's assume that this likes is a variable with a number assigned to it. And so the question is, does this post have exactly 10,000 likes? So this is going to evaluate to either true or false. It's taking these two values and it's comparing them with this comparison operator, and it will evaluate to either true or false. Okay, and then here's some more. This one is an exclamation point and an equal sign. And what this means is not equal to. So whenever you want to compare something like followers does not equal 5,000, then the question you're asking is, does this user not have 5,000 followers? And if the user does not have 5,000 followers, then it's going to evaluate to true. And let's keep on going. We have greater than. We've seen this in math. Oh, math. That's how I feel sometimes. You know, at one point in my life, I actually did like math, but that was then, and today is now. Okay, so I digress. Greater than, greater than. All right, so views greater than 20,000. So here's a question. Did the view get more than 20K views? So once again, it will evaluate to true or false. Okay, less than. Shares. Less than 1,000. So did the post get fewer than 1,000 shares? And greater than or equal to. So this one is interesting. It can either be greater than or equal to whatever it is that you're comparing. So this one is comments greater than or equal to 50? So are there at least 50 comments? That'll evaluate to true or false. And the same for less than or equal to. Saves. Is it less than or equal to 20? So is this post saved 20 times or fewer? And that will evaluate to true or false. So now we're going to see how Python actually creates those values using comparisons. But one thing to think about, comparisons, you see them everywhere in real life. So for example, when TikTok checks if you have at least 1,000 followers, if you do, it's going to let you go live. And so that is an actual comparison under the hood. Or let's say some online store filters for everything under $50. That's also a comparison. Or hey, your bank checks if you have enough money for a transaction. That's also a comparison. So these comparisons help programs make decisions. And if a condition is met, then the program can take action. If not, it does something else. So let's go ahead and get into the code and see how we can use these comparison operators. Okay, so let's check. Let's do an example where we check if a video hits a milestone. So you can see that I assigned 75,000 to views. And then I'm going to print using these comparison operators, okay? This is the greater than or equals to comparison operator. I have views on one side, and then I'm comparing that to 50,000. And this is going to evaluate to either a true or false statement. So when you're looking at this, I'm sure you can guess that this is going to be true. So I'll run the program, And we can see that it says true. Here's another example. Okay, we have video 1 views, 50,000, video 2 views, 75,000. And then I'll just go ahead and print comparing these two values, video 1 views greater than video 2 views, and this should evaluate to false. So we can go ahead and print this, and we see false. All right, and so we now know how to compare values. Let's move on to another operator, and this one is called the Modulo Operator. I'm going to go ahead and type that word for you and show you the symbol. The symbol is a percentage sign. Okay, so this modulo operator, what does it do? The modulo operator actually doesn't deal with percentages, but what it does is it finds the remainder when dividing two numbers. So for example, if I were to do print divided by 3, you see that it's actually doing the division for us when I do the print statement. However, if I were to say 10 mod, we usually say mod for short, 3, what it's going to do is it will find the remainder for us between these two numbers. So it should evaluate to 1. So, and there we have it. Let's do another example. I'm going to do 15 mod 3, or excuse me, 15 mod 5. And that is going to give us 0. And why is that? That's because there is no remainder. 5 times 3 equals 15. So there's no remainder left over, and that's the reason why it gave us 0. So I'm going to do another example. 20 modulo 6. And so this is going to give us a remainder of 2. So if the remainder is 0, that means the number is evenly divisible. It fits perfectly. But if the remainder is something else, then there's something left over. That's just like a really quick way how to think about this. So why is modulo useful? Well, modulo helps us check patterns and cycles in numbers. And so here is a real-world use case. If I wanted to check if a number is even or odd, let's check if this number is even. So since 27 divided by 2 leaves a remainder of 1, so this right here would evaluate to 1, and then 1 would be compared using this equal to comparison operator to 0, which then would evaluate to false because 1 does not equal 0. And so let's just go ahead and run this code. Is this number even? False. Let's do another example. So another use case for using the modulo is checking for different cycles. Let's say that you wanted to post on TikTok every 3 days. And today's date is the 12th. And so if today's date is a multiple of 3, we're using this modulo, this should evaluate to 0. And so if it's a multiple to 3, it's going to evaluate to 0, and then we're going to compare that with the equal to 0, and then that should mean post today equals true. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Should post today true. So far, we've checked one condition at a time, whether a video has enough views, whether a number is even, or whether today is a posting day. But in real-world decisions, it usually involves multiple conditions at once. So, for example, a TikTok video is considered viral if it either has 50,000 views or 10,000 shares. A creator gets a bonus only if they have at least 100,000 views and at least 10,000 likes. A user can go live only if they are at least 18 years old and have 1,000 followers. So in Python, we use Boolean Logic, that's what they call it, to combine multiple conditions and make smarter decisions. So let's talk about Boolean operators. So I want to show you this table where we have this Boolean operator. And a Boolean operator is and, or, and not. And so it allows you go to the operator and, what it means is both conditions must be true. So here's an example. Followers is greater than or equal to 1,000 and age is greater than or equal to 18. So both of these conditions must be true to evaluate to true. Let's take another example. Now we have another operator called OR. And so what this means is at least one condition must be true. So in this instant, views is greater than or equal to 50,000 or shares is greater than or equal to 10,000. So one of these conditions has to be true for this whole statement to evaluate to true. And then we have not. And this is essentially, it reverses true or false. Okay, so not likes less than 1,000. So what this is, if likes is less than 1,000 and this evaluates to true, not is going to negate that true and turn it into a false. So then the question is this post not unpopular? That's like a little weird. But you'll understand a little bit more when we go into the code. Okay, so the first example, we're going to check if a creator gets a bonus. And so a creator will get a bonus if the views are greater than or equal to 100,000, if that is true, and likes are greater than and equal to 100,000. And as you can see, put these in parentheses. And so you want to do when you're comparing multiple conditions like how we are on this one. So views is 120,000. So we know that this condition is true because it's greater than 100,000. And then likes is greater than or equal to 10,000. And so then this one is 8,000. So actually, this is a false condition. But since we have this and Boolean operator, both need to be true to evaluate to true. So in this instance, this is false. So true and false is going to equal false. Let me go ahead and print this. Eligible for bonus, false. So the creator has enough views, but not enough likes. So since we used and, both conditions must be true, but they're not. So Python returns false. Let me give you another example. So let's check if a video went viral. So is viral. All right, so this is what we're checking for. So if views is greater than or equal to 50,000 or shares is greater than or equal to 10,000. As long as one of them is true, then this will evaluate to true. So in this instance, we see that views is at 40,000. So this is actually false because views is not greater than 50,000. Shares, however, is 12,000. And so this is going to evaluate to true. So even though the views are below 50,000 and shares are over 10,000, since we use or, just one condition needs to be true. So the whole thing is true. Let's go ahead and evaluate this. Did the video go viral? True. All right, so let's have some more examples. Let's do that interesting one where I showed you not, which is a little confusing. But all right, so instead of checking if something is true, you might want to check if something is not true. And so the not operator, it's going to help us reverse a condition, which can sometimes make your logic clearer and easier to manage. But let me just show you some examples so you can see what I'm talking about. So in this one, let's check if a post is not popular. All right, so we have 500. And we are checking if this is not popular. So as we see, if likes is greater than or equal to 1,000, then that is going to evaluate to true, right? But since we have this not, if this evaluates to true, not is going to be the opposite of true. And so then this will be false is assigned to not popular. But in this case, this likes is 500. So this is not greater than or equal to 1,000, it's actually going to evaluate to false. But since we have this not, it's going to reverse that. And so this is actually going to evaluate to true. So this is actually a true statement. This post is not popular. Go ahead and run it. So if this post is not popular, it is true. Let's do another one. Let's check if a user is not eligible for a bonus. Okay, got the spelling wrong. What are you doing? There you go, fix it. Okay, so for in this instance, then, this is going to check if the user does not meet the condition for a bonus. So if we look at this, we see that views is 70,000, greater than or equal to 100,000. This is false, but we have this and operator, okay? And so likes, which is 9,000, is not greater than or equal to 10,000. So these both are false. These two conditions are false, so that's going to equal false. Now we have this not operator, which is going to reverse it. So not eligible is actually true. User is not eligible for the bonus. True. Now that we know how to compare values, we can check patterns with Modulo and combine conditions using Boolean logic. We can write programs that make smarter decisions. So let's answer the question, can a user go live on TikTok? All right, can a user go live on TikTok? Okay, so here are our conditions here. A user can only go live if they are 18 and over, and if they have followers that are 1,000 or more. Okay, so if we see our variables, we see that the age is 20, followers is 12,000. So, hey, this user is eligible to go live. Can this user go live? Yes, yes, yes. All right. We covered a lot today. We covered some key concepts that help us make decisions in Python. We covered conditions. So those are statements that are either true or false, like checking if a post has enough likes. We covered comparison operators, and those are used to compare values like views is greater than or equal to 10,000 to see if a video hit a milestone. We covered Modulo Operator, and that's used for finding remainders and helping track patterns like even and odd numbers, or you can use it for post schedules. And then we covered Boolean logic, and that is where it combines conditions using and, or not. So it allows us to check multiple things at once. These are the building blocks of decision making in Python. They power so much in programming. I mean, you could see from all those examples that I gave from TikTok, those are just like elementary examples of some of the questions that they might ask to, determine if you're eligible for a bonus or if you're able to go live. Like that simple. Are they 18 and over? Do they have more than 1,000 followers? If so, true. They can go live. Okay, so make sure to do the quiz, and I'm going to add some additional resources, which I think could be really helpful for you to check out when it comes to conditions like true and false. Alrighty.